That was our first arraignment. This guy, Juan, is the one that shot the state police.
So this is direct from the raid?
That's my first court appearance.
There's a healthy price to pay for becoming a martyr on these issues, you know? They'll kill you.
Jail, assassination attempts, framings. This man has been fighting the government for 60 years and he refuses to give up.
My first term I got framed up. They planted 38 ounces of weed in my truck. So right away they turned around and accused me of bombings in Chicago and New York. And then they wanted to make a deal with me that they'd take the charges if I wouldn't charge them with anything. You guys go to hell. You son of a bitch.
Much of the American West was settled by Spanish conquistadors. They came in the 1600s to spread Christianity and find gold. In exchange, Spain's monarchy granted them vast tracts of land.
That little hillside over there, those little bluffs that are way over there, that was the western boundary for our land grant. And we went back that way about 30 miles to that cerro over there. You see that square top mountain? Yeah.
The U.S. government bought this land, including New Mexico, in 1848 and agreed to respect the Spaniards' land rights. Instead, the opposite has happened.
My grandfather's land grant was 250,000 acres. They only left him 1,400 acres. Look how much they left him.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the Juan Bautista Valdez, my grandfather's land grant. It was 250,000, that's how much they left him.
The U.S. first gave the land to settlers from the east. Then it took it for conservation. Today, the Spaniards have a fraction of their original land. Most has been put into protected areas and forests where they can no longer farm or log.
Their goal is to wean all of those people from natural resources in these lands and diminish grazing, which the people were completely dependent on, grazing of livestock, and transition those people into mainstream America so that they wouldn't have any claims on the land.
Moises, now a county commissioner, and David, an influential rancher, say it's not about conservation, but about conquering the Spanish-speaking farmers.
67, 68 document by Hearst and Hassel, he was the regional forester, that clearly identified their mission was to wean and remove the people off of the land and basically starve them, force them into mainstream America so that our upcoming generations, our kids, could make a living here. They have to move to a city somewhere where they can get a job.
Moises' battle against the government began in 1968 when he and a group of activists raided a courthouse and detained a district attorney, alleging that the government was repressing them. There was a rebellion, right?
On June the 5th, 1967, I was the first guy there. I was the scout of that raid. It wasn't a raid, it was a citizen's arrest, approved by Judge Larazolo, but the system called it a raid.
What happened?
We went to arrest the district attorney, and because the way they were treating our people, they were trying to deny people the freedom of speech or freedom of symbol. They didn't want our people to get together and have meetings to discuss the language. I called Reyes and they went over there and that's what was going to happen. We were going to arrest the district attorney.
And what happened?
It got a little bit out of control, and a state police got shot, and one of the jailers got shot.
Did anyone go to jail?
I went to jail for a while, and then I won, and then all of us were in the pen for safekeeping for a while.
The court let Moises off because it found the government had, in fact, violated their rights. But he kept fighting and kept facing persecution.
When I ran for office, my first term I got framed up. They planted 38 ounces of weed in my truck and arrested me because I was a drug dealer. So they took me to jail, and then they wanted to make a deal with me that they'd take the charges if I wouldn't charge them with anything. You guys go to hell. You son of a bitch.
Wait, they said they would drop the charges if you didn't run for office?
If I didn't run for office and if I didn't charge them with any crime, you guys go to hell. So right away they turned around and accused me of bombings in Chicago and New York. Took me to Chicago about 8 or 9 times before the grand jury. Finally I beat them over there. On the way back, the feds wanted to find me. They told me you can make more money in one day, Moises, working for us than you do your life working for the poor people. Motherfucker. That's what I told them. So I came back here and I went to court and I beat them. I got the guys convicted.
Real quickly, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe. We have upcoming videos from Militia Country, Navajo Nation, and Albuquerque's War Zone. If you like this video, we know you will love those. In the mountains, Moises showed us what he's fighting for.
Look at all the dead trees. You can see the brown ones all the way back down in there. If they start a fire here and if the wind changes, it's going to fly that way. It can go all the way to Arito, all the way around. What's happening in California? Same thing.
We spoke to 4 ranchers who all said the same thing, that the government does not take care of the land it seizes, which creates a risk of fires.
Here's a great example. This is private land on this side, and this is land that looked as bad as this before I did it. And you can see the difference between the two sides.
Literally see the difference. That's amazing, yeah. So that's private land,
Yep.
government land.
Yep.
When these trees fall down in another 2 years, it's going to be worse than what it was. Let's go this other way and I'll show you. Look at all these burned trees. Look at all them. They could have been used for a lot of things. Look at all that. All of them are going to die. When these fall down, it's going to be worse than what it was. See all that area there?
Yeah.
All the way down to the bottom and around the other way.
So why are the trees dying?
They burned them. Instead of logging them and thinning them, they burned them.
What's the logic for that?
They're lazy. They don't want to work.
What would be done differently if the local people were in charge of the land?
Okay, all them trees that you see there burned. If people were controlling the land, we'd have mills all over. We'd have people working in the forest, cleaning the forest. They haven't really done shit, you know. I was 78 now, and then I've seen this shit for a long time, you know. Still the same harassment they did to our grandparents.
Another problem is elk. The government has filled the forest with elk, which eat the grass and destroy property.
And now we have the state of New Mexico Game and Fish
That's another one.
that have overrun not only this government lands, but private properties with elk.
Clumps.
The number of elk that we have in this counties is devastating all of the small farms. Now
That's
the
great.
New Mexico Department of Game and Fish has become this entrepreneur agencies where they're making millions of dollars via the sale of game licenses,
Oh, yeah.
elk as an example. They turn around and they're buying tracts of private property, taking it out of the tax base, taking it out of the agriculture base. So
they can make more money
Yeah.
because they can give out more permits.
Yeah.
In the name of conservation, the people of northern New Mexico say the government has destroyed the economy. Logging and ranching have always been the biggest industries here. To protect the Mexican spotted owl, though, the government outlawed logging.
There was a whole industry in this area that was killed in the 60s and 70s with the spotted owl movement, because it removed the people from the forest, from logging, from thinning, from fuel wood and all these things in the name of the spotted owl. And it killed industries and it killed communities. Like the community of Chama up here, it had 2 sawmills. Vallecitos on the other side had 2 sawmills. And there was all this infrastructure that went with it, all these families that were employed, that were sawyers, that were loggers, that were fellers, that were hauling wood, that were working at the sawmill, that were disposing of the sawdust, and all these other, and then they were cleaning up the forest and planting trees and doing all that went away when the logging industry was killed.
Who led that movement?
And mostly it was people that were not from the west, that were from the east, that had come out here that didn't like the way the timber was being harvested. They didn't think the timber was being harvested in a sustainable fashion.
That crushed the industry and local economy, causing social decline. Today, New Mexico has some of the country's highest rates of alcohol and fentanyl abuse.
You'll see this social decline because these are land-based people. They've lost the land. So their social status starts to decline. So all of those vulnerabilities of the drugs, welfare, all of those things come into play systematically after that.
Today, ranchers fear the same thing is happening with the wolf.
There's people in boardrooms across the United States right now plotting to remove public land ranchers off grazing lands and the cattle off the grazing lands because the wolf was there first.
Taken together, ranchers like Moises and David say the government has been waging war on their centuries-old lifestyle.
Why does the federal government even care? Like, why does the federal government feel the need to take the land for themselves when, like you said, you haven't just been here for 50 years. You've been here for 400 years.
I think it goes back to the attitude of territory, nation conquered. The U.S. conquered this lands. So they then decide that the people that are here basically don't have any rights, that it's now opened up to the Homestead Act. It's opened up to, let's bring more people from Europe so that they can take over this land.
This land was originally the Native Americans. So in that way, this could be seen as just another cycle of conquest, this time the U.S. conquering the Spaniards.
It's a time where a new nation conquered This land's from Mexico.
Do you agree with Moises' characterization of this as being it's the U.S. conquering the Spaniards?
Yes, the Mexican go. Nations take over nations, and one race always wants to dominate another race. That's just human nature.
So maybe history is just repeating itself. And that's why the last conquistadors won't go down without a fight. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. In our upcoming videos, we visit a militia, we go to Navajo Nation, and we go to Albuquerque's war zone. You won't want to miss those. Make sure to subscribe.